I personally had very difficult experience with like having home diagnostics done conveniently for my wife and daughter when they had dengue. And so it kind of all came together.
The thing that we always joke about internally, and we now say it pretty openly also, is that before we take any investors' money, we take their blood.
Literally.
So, one of the key mistakes that happened in healthcare is that people don't treat this as deep tech sector. Why are there so many companies that have failed in healthcare, in health tech, right? Every initial review was large essay from a customer. And then it kind of became an obsession for us that how do we get more compliments, because that was the headiness I got, okay? Like in the morning, I would, instead of looking at Facebook or Instagram, right, my first thing would be to open up Google Business and to go through, my morning ritual was, okay, what are the reviews?
In this journey with Bertelsmann, we've also been through ups and downs. In fact, when we signed the Series B term sheet and the money came in, within 2 months, 60% of our revenue disappeared with COVID gone.
We
right?
That, yeah.
And that was quite another trying time where COVID, boosted us and killed us the second time during the Orange Health journey. But throughout the journey, you guys have been supportive. You guys have been very straight about it.
Never batted an eyelid. That was the thing.
Yeah. That we're in this. Let's just make this happen. Tarun responds, "What is wrong with you? Why would you never want this? Of course you need this." I'm looking at Tarun and then the video gets over.
So you guys are also not very afraid of doing, I don't think it was in fashion by then, doing deep full stack businesses. I think
You cannot build a high margin business by a very thin
at that
stack.
time, a lot of investors used to be shy of it. You guys are not.
I know a couple of my founders who are die-hard Orange Health Fund. Die-hard. They can't think of doing diagnostics at any other place except Orange. There's this saying that let's paint the town red. I would want to paint the town orange.
In a city where nothing slows down, health can't wait either. That's where Orange Health Labs comes in, bringing trusted diagnostics straight to your doorstep, faster than you could imagine. Because in today's world, time isn't just money, it's peace of mind. And health deserves both. At the heart of it is Dhruv Gupta and Tarun Bhambra, founders of Orange Health. On a mission to make healthcare as quick, seamless and reliable as the lives we lead. And today, they join Pankaj and Swati to talk about how speed, trust and technology are reshaping the future of healthcare.
So actually, the Orange Health journey started in like late 2019 when Tarun and I were moving out and started thinking of starting something new. We'd spent a few years in healthcare individually and worked together. And we had an idea which was a little bit different from what we are doing today actually, right?
More along one medical.
Yeah, it was basically a standardized chain of primary care clinics, right? Which we've actually, more along the lines of one medical, which we were going to build. And we actually started working on this idea in like, I would say last quarter of 2019. Building this out, we were very deep into it. Over the 6 months till the first quarter of 2020, we actually went down building the full business model, how it will play out. We had a term sheet, a $7 million seed term sheet to build this out.
Wow.
Okay. And then COVID lockdown happened on March 27th. It got announced.
I think 15th or 20th, we had a term sheet.
We had a term sheet,
We
everything.
had negotiated the SHA, it was done and dusted, and we were supposed to sign on 30th.
It was literally a 200-page agreement because it was a complex term sheet and like many things. We had made out offers to our first couple of employees. We said now the money is coming into the bank. The money was supposed to hit in like 2 days' time. And March 27th, the lockdown gets announced. March 28th, we get a message from the investor saying, guys, let's chat. And I was like, this does not sound good. March 29th, they say, sorry, we can't do this. So the lockdown happens. I mean, the world is in a tizzy. We're all wondering personally what's going to happen. Are we going to survive this COVID situation? Our term sheet gets wiped, offers get pulled, obviously, and our business plan goes to hell, right? Because in this COVID world, it makes no sense to do a primary care chain of clinics, right? Like, why are you
No one's
building
gonna
physical
come.
real estate? It's all going to be online. What are we going to do, right? I mean, it was a dark phase. I'll be very honest. It was for about I would say 7 to 10 days. We went through a pretty dark phase where we said, okay, let's just take a break from this and come back to this and think about this. So that's how the Orange Health journey started. And I say this that
On that time, like we were sitting and discussing, and we kind of were looking at our business plan. And then I did some analysis on that randomly, and I figured out that like 80% of the profits in the primary care chain is coming from diagnostics.
Which is our observation too.
Right? So when that we like, okay, 80% profits are coming from here, then baki paraphernalia, what is the point, right? And so we decided, okay, we'll look at diagnostics only, right? And he was simultaneously looking for alternatives at that point in time, and then he just like as an Hail Mary thing said, let's just try YC, who knows? And it was the last day of
No, YC was over. So I remember this call. I remember where I was standing when he called me. He's like, "यार मैं business plan देख रहा था. Diagnostics looks like the most profitable part of it. What if we build something there?" At that point तो कुछ भी नहीं था, right? कोई idea नहीं था, कुछ नहीं था. I was like, हाँ चलो ये देखते हैं, right?
Tarun ने mentally बनाया हुआ ना business plan.
nahin, see, once gone down that path, we both had sufficient context in healthcare to very randomly come to conclusions on what are the challenges and where is the likely cut in, right? And it was very clear to us ki like that entire thing in diagnostics right now, we were actually quite averse to the entire discount piece, right?
Right.
So one of the things that we had done in the beginning, early days when we were thinking of leaving our previous company and starting, we actually sat in, I remember in Blue Turquoise, and we said that what will the business be like? And one of the things that I had put down is that never in my life I'm going to do a business which is below 40% gross margin. Okay.
That's a really interesting point.
Right. So I was like, I don't want to take that headache. And second thing is, I don't want to be a discounted player ever. So if these two things are there, that business idea is dead. So we were doing many business ideas even when we were thinking this entire one medical model. So when we went back and we saw this piece that, okay, we don't want to do discounts in diagnostics because that's what the entire space was flooded with, right? And we said that, okay, trust and quality is built over, quality should be a given, trust is built over time. The only thing that is left to win over is with service. And that's how we made that focus. Okay, then what in service, right? And then it unrolled from there. That entire thesis was created, he was telling the story, but like it was created in a matter of days. But it's like one of those things, right? Like is suddenly the last 7-8 years that we had put in healthcare, right, suddenly aligned when you had clarity of the problem to solve. Otherwise, you just are lost in information and you're trying to do many random things, right? But which is what I was telling in one of our conversations with another founder, right? One of the key mistakes that happened in healthcare is that people don't treat this as deep tech sector. Why are there so many companies that have failed in healthcare, in health tech, right? Reason is not that tech cannot make inroads into healthcare. The problem is that the person who comes from the tech side, right, doesn't come with sufficient context, right? This is to be treated as a deep tech sector. If you want to build something in AI, you should have some context in AI. If you want to build something in space, you should know how to build a rocket, right? If you want to build something in healthcare, you need to have immersed yourself for 5-7 years, and then only you come to good conclusions.
Yeah. That was the only way. Like when he said diagnostics, like, okay, we've had some experience in this space. Yes, this makes sense. I had personally had a very difficult experience with like having home diagnostics done conveniently for my wife and daughter when they had dengue. And so it kind of all came together, right? And then we said, okay, our term sheet's gone, all the money is gone, investors have disappeared, they also don't know what to do. And someone suggested to me, oh, why don't you apply to YC, right? YC deadline was over for 2 weeks. But we said, okay, let's just fill in the application and apply. 2 days later, we get a call and we do the interview. Now, in the interview, one of the YC partners, I'll say this openly, one of the YC partners, is a 10-minute interview, right? Like, it's a video call, and in the interview, one of the YC partners said, I don't see the point of doing at-home diagnostics, and I don't really need it fast. Okay. Tarun responds, "What is wrong with you? Why would you never want this? Of course you need this." I'm looking at Tarun, and then the video gets over. I told him, "Chalo, let's go have a drink. We've blown this now."
It was my typical
Passionate
Yeah.
Tarun.
Within 48 hours, we get a call saying, "We like it. We want you guys in." Right, and that's how the journey started. And many people have asked us, "Oh, why did you have to go to YC? Why did you have to do this?" You just said, like, in that moment, we were all grappling with figuring out how do we navigate this new world, this new thing that we're also thinking about, and we took it step by step, and YC came about. So that's a little bit about how Orange Health started.
Dhruv and I had to take in between, because our savings were dwindling, in between Dhruv and I had to take a consulting gig with a hospital chain. So for 3 months while we were solving for this, we were consultants to a hospital chain, working with them on thinking through some of the thoughts. Nothing happened in that hospital because they were worried that tech side of the business will eat the main business. But like so many things we had to get together in middle of a lot of chaos at that point in time. And it really was, that was like a
Just trial
survival
by fire.
trial by fire, honestly, to get this off the ground.
Yeah.
What a trial it was. Your revenue has been consistently upwards since the first year.
Yeah, but starting was the challenge. I mean, there are many hiccups to starting the.
Talk about some of those. I think are very, very, very interesting and inspirational topics here. For us, again, very similar to what Swati said earlier, we were looking at diagnostics plays. And I don't know whether you know this or not, but we actually, before we invested in you guys, we had been looking at diagnostics plays for the last 5-6 years.
Wow.
Every startup that did diagnostics, we evaluated them. And for the most obvious reason, because we do think that the profit pools in the diagnostic sector are good. One of the theses that we kind of built on was we don't like the aggregation game in diagnostics because that is a thinner stack. We like the provider model a lot, which is what you guys were doing, but a couple of others were also doing similar things. So I remember evaluating Healthian at some point, and so on. But we felt that a lot of the innovation that some of these players were doing were more incremental innovation. They were not disruptive innovation. So all the time we got very excited about the sector at large market, big problem statement. As urbanization happens, as more cities kind of come in, diagnostics will continue to kind of grow. And pan India, there weren't any large chains. All of these chains, as you all know, are either city chains or maximum regional chains. So consolidation or building a large platform was something that we thought would happen. Now, hence, honestly, by the time we started kind of talking to you guys, we had met a lot of these players and nobody was doing something which we thought was disruptive from that perspective. And that's when I think Raghav met you. He actually came back and said, "Pankaj, this actually looks very disruptive. You need to kind of look at it." They have Orange Health, Dhruv and Tarun have not only innovated on the diagnostic piece, but there's a massive differentiation coming from the supply chain by virtue of which multiple things are coming. And by the way, we had never heard a pitch like that.
Wow.
So that got us extremely curious. And of course, when we kind of went into the meeting with you guys and you started talking about what you were doing, of course, trying to understand that the mission that you have to build top class diagnostic business. And then you talked about no discounts. We firmly believe in that. Education, healthcare should not be about discounting. It should be about very high quality services. We had seen that happening in education in some of our portfolios. We knew that it might happen in healthcare as well. So to be honest, a lot of the thesis as well as the values that you had put together in your business, they resonated very well with us. And then the entire...
So you guys are also not very afraid of doing, I don't think it was in fashion by then, doing deep full stack businesses. I think you were there already in Shiprocket by then. No.
We were there in Shiprocket by then, but the deep stack business that we got excited about, I mean, we had done Pepper Fried, we had done Licious, all of them are deep stack.
Yeah, correct.
And one of the things that you said, Tarun, was high margin business. High margin business can only happen if you're deep stack.
True.
You cannot build a high margin business by a very thin
That
stack.
time, a lot of investors used to be shy of it. You guys were not.
Yeah, because it's very hard to solve.
Correct.
Now, we are coming in after you have solved that problem. Early stage guys would shy away from that because you have to solve it by taking their money. So from that perspective, if we feel in general that companies have solved it and you guys had solved it, we got super excited about it. Again, the big bet that we had to take, of course, was, will this scale up? Will this work in multiple cities? Will the same value proposition work? People ordering on the spot, the service level coming reasonably fast at your house to kind of get the blood work done. Will that scale up in all the cities? I think those were the risks that we were thinking of, whether that will work or not. Now, with your massive operational background in Practo and all the work that you had done, I think after meeting you and spending a little bit of time with you, we got very confident that that is something that you will solve reasonably well. I think you've proven us right, and we are very happy to have kind of partnered you with, and on this journey. And I do still feel that this is day one of the journey, and we still have a lot to build and a lot to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, we are not that old, and yet we're doing newer things. We've really cracked that home for urban India, and now we are moving towards Omni. Can you take us through that journey? What has happened so far? What do we look forward to?
Actually, I relate a lot to one of the videos that originally I think Sam Altman made or someone from BII had made, right? Which was that the nature of business is to be a monopoly in a smaller market and not be one of the many in a larger market, right? And I think what we wanted to do, we wanted to create monopoly on the service quality and at home, which was a small sliver of the market. It was only 5% when we started. Today, it's about like 20% of the market. But that's a rapidly growing market. So you want to be taking dominant position in terms of your proposition in a smaller sliver of the market so that you are able to be a clear choice for the customer to expand. But what happens as you gain scale, right, is that there is a kind of like a regression to mean in business, right? Like the early adopters have given you a lot of light, but the next mass people want comparability to larger format players, right? And they need that additional comfort to say that okay, I mean the new generation has picked you up, but for me to change my choice, you will have to match certain level of distribution and offerings and in many cases, other cases like merchandising equivalent to the other companies. So you have to match up on the menu, right? You have to be able to do certain more advanced tests, and you have to will match up on distribution also. I need to be able to see you, right? I am not comfortable with this idea of a cloud kitchen equivalent lab, right? I see Anand Newberg, I see the centers, I get, there's a huge big building. I feel like there is a degree of accountability, and more so in healthcare, right? Phygital is a very critical trust marker. Now, once we had created a brand in the sliver that we had taken, when we reached in Bangalore a scale of like being in top 3, we started as the 1800th lab in the city, right? But once we reached the top 3 with just this, then we felt that now competing with the next 2 players, right, we need to be able to reach out to a larger audience. And to reach out to a larger audience, we had to create the retail format. Of course, we wanted to do it in a way which is very different from how others have done their retail. Maybe you want to put some thoughts on that.
I mean, I'll say this before I get into this. I'll also say that over the journey, right? Every quarter we try some new experiments, right? And some work, some don't. So we run a few experiments, and even on retail actually, while we recognize the fact that for us to take the next leap, for us to cross this chasm, right, we'll need to go physical. We tried a few formats. So actually, I would say for the first 6 to 8 months, we just built 2 stores in slightly different formats, and we watched them work, right? We try to play around with the variables, try to figure out how the P&L works, what is good for the brand, what helps us attract customers, what creates a good omnichannel experience. And that's when we went deeper and realized what were the gaps in the market, right, before we actually go out and push the accelerator on this, right. So we realized many gaps, around customer experience, hygiene in the store, who is the teach that we want to cater to, and what is the experience that we want them to have when they come into the store. What experience does the customer have with us at home that differentiates, and how do you give them something like that in a physical store as well? So there are many of these factors that we sort of went deep into, and when we got into it, we then put our backs behind it. We made sure that we designed the stores in a consistent format. We actually got this done professionally, not like someone in-house designing this, but making sure that we had retail experts design this for us, which helped us basically deliver a good experience in those first couple of stores, and then that's when helped us push further.
One other thing that we strongly believe in is being very heavily being in our execution being counter positioned. The challenge always is when in a market like diagnostics, a lot of it has already been done, and it's the biggest challenge that we feel as founders is that in anything that we start, right, how are we counter positioned to whatever way the current players are doing this? In retail, for example, what we recognized was that for most players, retail is a distribution strategy. And because it's a distribution strategy, they do it through franchisees. And because it's through franchisees, it has to be a low investment, low capex
And
model.
you don't control the experience.
Yeah. So we decided to be counter positioned by saying that it is not going to be a distribution strategy. Distribution we are already achieved. We are 100% at home. We are covering the entire city. So for ours was not distribution. Ours was branding strategy, right? More high-end format stores, right, which is more focused on giving superior experience and completely company controlled. So this is something that becomes then juxtaposed against the model, and it becomes difficult for then others to say that okay, we want to chase this, because the good thing about being counter positioned is that you at least get a lead time of about 2 years before because the other person is not willing to change their model just because you have started two things. And then it depends on your speed of execution, right? So he said rightly, we started with 1 or 2 stores, but and I think by till March
March, we're about 10-15 stores today. By end of September, we should probably be about 50 stores. And now we're pushing hard on getting that to a 3-digit number.
So we should be over 100 like within a year, right? So before anyone can think about saying, okay, store should be a branding strategy, right? It's already widely executed in a location.
Reflecting in your market share, right? For example, in Bangalore, now we have significant market share of the diagnostic that happens in the city. In the other 5 cities, we follow this as well.
Yeah. So we're close to now about like I think easily 7-8% market share in the city. I think the largest player would be around 10%.
Couple of percent more than us.
Right. So I think hot on the heels.
That's a massive playbook that you've kind of built, which hopefully you can then replicate into a lot of other cities as you kind of build businesses, right?
Good thing is that actually, these are always bets, right? So, but for us, like for example, what we are seeing is the like Hyderabad and Mumbai and all, right? They are responding at greater than 100% growth rate, right? So I think that has really shown that like this is an expandable model for us. How now we are now actually bringing in retail much earlier to signal quality as well. So that is going to be going now in hand together.
One thing that we've been very clear about is, and this has helped us a lot, is who is the customer we are serving. So we know the persona of the customer, right? And everything we do is to serve this customer, right? I mean, whether it is saying fast at home, reliability, convenience, professionalism, in-store experience, what are the products that we're launching, it's all towards service of this one customer.
And you have massive customer love.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, we hear it all the time. We heard about it before we did the deal. After we, of course, did the deal, and whoever we talk about Orange Health with, they all get super excited. I know a couple of my founders who are die-hard Orange Health fan. Die-hard. They can't think of doing diagnostics at any other place except Orange.
Honestly, that is the most inspiring thing for us. Numbers, of course, are core to the business, right? But when we think about what drives us is actually this customer love, right? Like that is a number that we obsess over. We think about NPS, customer satisfaction, what are reviews, what are customers saying about us? Because honestly, that is where what you're doing really has impact and meaning. Right, those customers who tell you that, hey, you helped save a life, you helped someone who was in dire need of some healthcare need, right? That is really what drives us every day to think about what is it that we need to push next on.
There are, like, one of the key ambitions that we had, like, from the very beginning, because we knew who our customer was. I remember Dhruv and I in the beginning would call every customer that we had service, every customer.
Yeah.
Right. And we would say, if you like the service, we are a small company, right? If you could just review us. And every initial review was a large essay from a customer. And then it kind of became an obsession for us that how do we get more compliments, because that was the headiness I got. Okay, like in the morning I would, instead of looking at Facebook or Instagram, right, my first thing would be to open up Google Business and to go through, my morning ritual was, okay, what are the reviews, right? And if even a single negative review happened, right, we would just throw ourselves at it. We should say, like, okay, what is it that you need from us, right? And how is it that it is never going to happen again by us, right? And we were just insanely obsessive about it. And this is one of the reasons today we gotten to a point where we can say that, like, we are the highest rated, India's #1 rated lab. Every single review, has been put together like a pearl in a thread by the team.
Wow.
Right? That's how we see it, right? The only office next to ours, right, is an office called Voice of Customer. So both next to Dhruv and me is another office of a team whose only and single sole purpose, and they are completely free from any revenue pressure, any production output pressure, whatever. Their only job is quality and reviews. And any single review, even today at this scale, right, that comes into the company is visible to us instantly within minutes to the both founders. Within minutes.
You're doing it at scale even now.
Even at scale.
That's impressive. How was the relationship with Bertelsmann when it started? And
Bertelsmann, I always say, I mean, anyone reaches out to us also, right? And one thing we always loved about Bertelsmann was that just the, straight shooters, right? What you hear is what you get. There is nothing, no meaning to be interpreted backwards. And we remember the initial conversation when the offer was made. It was a very clear and a very fair offer, actually, honestly speaking. And the other thing was that it was put in a way that was like not trying to be, in any way time squeeze or time
There were no
lock.
pressure tactics.
There were no pressure tactics, And I think Dhruv and I were like really impressed with that. There was clear sense of commitment on the idea, right? So we joined that, and then of course the due diligence happens. Due diligence per se for us has been, in all cases, been pretty manageable, because one thing that Dhruv and I have always followed is we are very conservative in our accounting principles. So we never end up getting into any disagreements about what is our gross margin, what is our revenue,
which is good.
Is the most conservative approach that you can take.
We had to tell them, please put it rightly. You're much better than that.
We appreciate their input.
Yeah. but because of that, I think we have never, so the fact telling part of the due diligence has never been a challenge. But it was I think at the end of the due diligence, when you're doing contract negotiation, right? Usually, like, I have over a period of time developed a reputation of being a little bit aggressive in negotiations.
Let's
right?
remove the little.
So the only person, I think, in all my negotiations up until now where I have this thing on saying that, okay, what am I willing to get off the table for? But I've never seen from the other side. Having been an investor myself, I know that there is very little once an investor wants to do the deal that they will get off the table for, right? But I only felt once ever in any negotiation was with Pankaj, where he finally came up into negotiations, because I was dealing with the lawyers and we were like going through all the discussion points, and finally Pankaj entered into one conversation, and Pankaj said that like, this is it, and that is all. And I knew from the tone that he said it that if I push this button, right, this is going to explode. So that is the time I said, okay, fine, I will agree to that clause.
Thank you for doing it. I don't know which clause was that, but thank you for doing it.
I remember the clause and I remember the evening. I was actually on vacation with my family. I was like late night
I
when we
called
were
him
on the
like
call.
shouting, okay. I was like, yeah, like this is like, they're not moving on this. I was like,
But
then he's like, okay.
yeah, no, but I'll confirm for sure that it's building a company is complex enough. There are enough things to navigate, and having straightforward partners from a capital perspective, from a board member perspective.
Upfront, clear
Yeah,
expectations.
just being upfront and clear is very helpful, because that's our nature too. We also prefer to keep it straight. So that was much appreciated through the journey, and now it's been more than 3 years.
Because we took so much time to talk through everything at that time, right? I don't think there has ever been a moment of misalignment on this thing. One of the key things I value about our relationship with Bertelsmann is that I think Bertelsmann took the pain and effort from very word go to understand what our model is from the beginning, right? Yes. And because like sometimes this funny conversation happens, okay? It's like sometimes with some investors, it's like they go through an amnesia of the model, right? And then they come back with the idea on saying, okay, why are we not doing this? Because I think Bertelsmann does such a deep work upfront in conversing about every aspect and expectation setting. 3 years since, I think you know what we are about to do, right? And we are doing that only, and there is no disagreement on any of this, right? Like there can be suggestions, of course,
Well,
but
that's also a fact. You're awesome founders, and you know a lot. Uh, but no, I have to kind of agree with the fact that as a fund, we of course do a lot of deep work. But with your case, we thoroughly enjoyed that work. The kind of work that you guys were doing, just hearing about that, or whether it's on the innovative side, whether it's about healthcare and actually making a difference in consumers' lives, all of those was music to our ears. So while on one side we are detail oriented, on the other side we enjoyed the journey with you so much that we probably ended up being more detailed than not. So please pardon us for that. But what a journey it has been. 3 years. I didn't know we've
Yeah,
already been
3+
3 years.
years now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. First conversation was actually in December 21. So, like we're closing 4 years now.
Oh wow. I would have assumed 2 years perhaps. Which is what I said, but it seems like day one for building this business.
And the other thing is that in this journey with Bertelsmann, we've also been through ups and downs. In fact, when we signed the Series B term sheet and the money came in, within 2 months, 60% of our revenue disappeared with COVID gone, right? And that was quite another trying time where COVID boosted us and killed us the second time during the Orange Health journey. But throughout the journey, you guys have been supportive. You guys have been very straight about it.
never
And,
batted an eyelid. That was the thing.
yeah. That we're in this. Let's just make this happen. And I mean, Tarun and I from the beginning knew that this is not a COVID business. It's a blood business. Yeah. But COVID was just happened to be the flavor of the season. So we were seeing massive boosts from there, and that's what put us on the map. To be honest, right?
Not just this. There was one time when we came back and we were having we had a B2B part of the business, if you remember, and B2B business was having cash flow issues because revenue cycle management with small accounts was a big problem. And then one fine day, working through the numbers and everything, Dhruv and I decided that this is just, this business is too much distraction for what it is providing us. And we wanted to kill that business, right? And we came to you guys and we said that, I mean, one is COVID, which blew off 50% of the business. Then we grew that business back up, got to the same level. Then we said, by the way, we want to blow up another 25% of our business, right? What I really love, right, like, is just it was not just that you were personally, like, it was not only like, okay, we trust the founders and we want to support them, right? It was actually that you understood what we are trying to do.
That was the right
Business
call.
wise, right? Business call, right?
That's the right business call.
And that is where it matters, because doing the right business calls, right, sometimes is not aligned always with growth, right? To be able to tell to that, maybe it is because, the kind of mandate this fund has, that is different, right? But you are always willing to do what is right for the business.
What is right for the long term?
What is right for the long term, right?
I mean, we do have a very long-term view about investments, right? And to a certain extent, it is the DNA of the team, but it's also backed by Bertelsmann, where we are a balance sheet investor. We don't have a 5-7 year horizon. Yes, we would like you guys, all of us would like to be successful in that 5-7 year horizon. But if that 7 year becomes 9 years, 10 years, 11 years, that's absolutely fine. So let's build the right business, right? And that's been our approach. And even when we actually invested in Orange Health, we knew that there was a big COVID revenue component in the business. And one of the conversation we internally had was, listen, we don't know what will happen to this. This will either shrink, it'll either stay static, or it'll grow. We don't want COVID to grow because that means the world is very uncertain. For humanity, let that business shrink.
Correct.
That was the conversation we had. And we said, listen, but if we are believing that diagnostics is the place to be, if we are believing that in India, regional labs will probably lose share and national labs will get built. We have found the most innovative company in diagnostics in India, which is doing a very differentiated product. And this is by founders and team that we highly respect. Then over a long period of time, it'll all work out. It's okay.
And it has worked out, right?
It has, absolutely.
So when as a board member, right? Your NPS talks about how high the customer love is. Your deviation from the AOP is like single digit percentages, which is more towards the positive side a lot of times. So which is the month on month, it's right there moving like this, and it attracts
Our board calls are
outsiders.
the most boring board calls probably you guys go to.
We like to keep it boring on that side. Yeah.
Right, so that's what. So you guys are delivered on it, and which also proves that point, right? Long term, that obsessiveness about the customer and the business plays out.
I think one thing that's been that we've learned over our journeys is that look, one is to build an AOP and promise numbers, but two is to be foundationally strong in the model that you're building for it, right? Which allows us to deliver on the predictability of the model, right? So over our journey, I would say that we've improved over time. In the early years, over time we've been able to build that muscle within ourselves, within our teams, across the organization, how we operate with OKRs, how we operate with like metric measurement across the company. We told you an example of like how we obsessively measure NPS and customer reviews, but similarly across the organization with a very metric-oriented approach, saying what is it that truly matters? Let's keep a focus on that and let's keep delivering to that. And when we do the planning also, we do it, one top down, but also bottom up. We let our teams come back and say, okay, what is possible? What are the plays? What are the experiments? What are the growth opportunities to actually build this out, right? So that's actually, and we've been able to build a good model on that, and that's fundamentally what's enabled us to be more and more predictable.
We always on the planning side, right? We try to become very scientific.
Yeah.
So our entire business model takes us about like 1.5-2 months to make, because we measure every input level metric. We never do top down projection on saying this percentage, you apply this percentage for growth. Every revenue number and every cost item has a linked input lever, and that input lever has a separate Excel file which has like how this input lever will move by doing what, right? And if we can't move it, we just don't fool ourselves about it. Like, we are happy saying that, okay, these months in the year will be degrowth. And that's another good thing with Bertelsmann is that every time when we say these things, right, like it doesn't become an unrealistic conversation. No, why cannot you not do it? Like there is a reasonable conversation on saying, okay, what is realistic here and what is happening in the industry, right? So these are all these things that give us a lot of peace of mind to operate, honestly speaking, right? And allows us to actually deliver then on what we have promised.
And it attracts outsiders. So, coming to how did Amazon get to you? And when that was announced, we noticed a lot of stocks fell that day. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, Amazon first talked to us in 2021. Okay, so that was the first time when they talked to us, and it was some ex-colleagues of ours who actually
Before Bertelsmann.
Yeah, because Amazon has been, from what we see from the outside, right, has been very serious about healthcare globally, and in the US they made very large investments where they're very keen to actually build out and made some very large plays. in India too, over the last few years, they've actually gone quite deep into the pharmacy side, their own telehealth platform, and diagnostics something they've been looking at for many years. So
I think at that time they were thinking they can make it on their own. That's why they were talking
yes,
to us.
they were thinking of doing it full stack at that point. That's what we understood from the outside. This is all our assumption from Amazon's a very secretive company in that sense. So we only know we only have perceptions from the outside in that
Based
sense.
on the detailed level of conversation they were having with us.
Yeah. But then over time they kept tracking us actually, and then finally 2024, they reached out and said, hey, we want to participate in your round, and would you be interested in helping us build out Amazon Diagnostics? And that sounded music to our ears.
And
That's
this is
the-
after
that's
looking
the
at various
funny-
players, right?
Sorry?
They evaluated everybody in the market.
Probably.
They have. See, the thing that we always joke about internally, and we now say it pretty openly also, is that before we take any investors' money, we take their blood.
Literally.
So literally, correct. So it's exactly that story in Amazon. What when they were, I think, evaluating the space, right? They figured out that okay, who is the company that we are individually trusting, because they're a very customer-centric company, right? And an overwhelming answer across the leadership, I think, is what we hear, was that a lot of them were already Orange Health customers.
Yeah.
And true to that statement that I just made, that when that's where you borrow your faith from, right? Like the product that you're using is probably the best one to invest in, right? Like it's
That's true. I watch what I eat thanks to you guys because I know you trend my biomarkers.
so that is what I think converted. And it's the full ecosystem play that came into play, right? Like so they were looking for this. They found that they themselves are customers. Then they actually discussed the numbers with us, and I think they found that Orange Health's customer centricity fundamentally. I think that is where they found the most alignment in values. And when they looked at our numbers, right, what they said that is okay in terms of operational delivery, you guys match the expectation we have.
There is a lot of consistency in that, which I was just mentioning. So consistently scaling, and it's a good thing about this growth is not random. We know what is happening where to the dot.
A highly very data oriented company. So we made significant investment in analytics in the company. I think we put like more than 500, 600 dashboards running.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Too many sometimes.
It's actually a load that our head of engineering
our
is like
engineering team
bothered
complains about how much server load CPU load gets used because of our dashboards and our queries.
Doing some very exciting stuff about bringing in more AI into the product suite, dashboard reporting, etc. And
I think that will probably lead to the next level of innovation for you guys. Where is the competition or the incumbents, because a lot of them are very physical businesses. They are not digital. They are not tech first, data first, and now AI first. That will probably open up a next set of amazing opportunities for you guys.
Yes.
What are you doing there?
So, the way we think about any technology, right, is what does this technology enable which was locked before? Right? That's how we think about it. So, for example, when mobile came in, it suddenly enabled geolocation, and that unlocked a whole series of capabilities. With AI, fundamentally, it unlocks many things. For example, personalization at scale, democratizing expertise. It enables human assistance at an AI level to you individually. It allows us to figure out trends much faster within a large sort of geographic spread, right? So what we've been doing actually is figuring out some of these opportunities and going deeper into it and saying, okay, how do we use this to, one, improve the overall business, two, actually improve the consumer experience, providing you much deeper personalized insights into your own health, right? Backed by science, because one is to just apply AI, but it's not just about that. It has to be backed by reliable science, which actually is useful, because you don't want a health AI hallucinating, right? You want it to actually operate within the right spheres. So a lot of work at our end is going into figuring out some of these pieces, and over the next few months will be all our users will actually get to experience it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overall, if I was to convert that into what is the experience because of the AI that will change, right? I think what is now possible with AI is that a company can actually make you feel seen as an individual. You're not a cookie cutter group of customers to a company. Company can personally talk to you about what I'm offering you, what I'm servicing you, and then when I do service it to you, it is exactly for you as a human being, who is a unique human being, right? So that is true for when you purchase something, right? That time AI can intervene, and that is true for when you finally get your report. Because today, report feels like a very garb of like group of numbers that you're just given, which is done in an industrial process, right, and handed over to you, right? But collated together, what does those numbers mean for an individual named Pankaj, right? And how every time you do this, how it gets even more better in the way it perceives you and sends you that final report. A product that self improves more it is used.
That's going to be a game changer.
Right? So I think the nature of the blood report, the diagnostic report, is like as Dhruv was saying that how is some technology going to change, right? Mobile changed the fact that I could come to your home now. I can do geolocation, I can send someone home, I can track everything, right? What AI does is basically being able to avoid this problem of everything today we have to do in groups and in averages solutioning. So
Feedback
a
is very
customer is
real time.
averaged out in some way.
Yeah, it's
right?
this is an individual cohort now, not a group cohort.
Wow.
I actually see that as going back a century. Okay, like everything 100 years ago was craftsman, artisan type,
Very bespoke.
very bespoke, individually made for a person,
Yeah.
right? Then came the world of industrialization, so everything got industrialized, right? But now we are entering a world where craftsmanship will be industrialized. Everything will be crafted at an industrial scale for an individual, right? With AI. So that is how we see AI working in diagnostic. It will be a hyper personalized diagnostic reporting experience. Your replica would be on our system, and how you are progressing as you age, and how your known health conditions are deteriorating with time,
Or improving.
right, or improving, right, will be tracked and will be auto upgraded. What you need basis that would be auto upgraded in the system.
All the consumers need that.
Yes. Customers are getting more and more aware. We're all starting to think about how do we proactively prevent ourselves from falling sick. India is the global capital for non-communicable diseases because we have a genetic tendency towards it. Lifestyles are not getting easier from that perspective. So like being able and today we all have wearables which track our steps and our heart rates and all of these factors. So it is a world where people want to take more control, and and it is our responsibility to actually build this out in a way that enables you to get insights which help you own your health better.
I think all of us can talk a little bit about what the next 5, 6 years are for us and how do we kind of build the most dominant brand. I mean, I'll start by saying that, listen, there's this saying that let's paint the town red. I would want to paint the town orange.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to make sure that all the big cities in India, as a first step, we should have all the consumers there should experience orange health. It's not about we going to them. I think it's their moment to get high quality service. We are providing that. We owe it to our consumers that they should get that service from us. And for us to now expand into multiple cities, which anyway you are doing, but making sure at the same time putting together a very high trust environment around it for the consumer. I think you guys are already doing all of that. So we're very happy with the work that you're doing. If you just continue the progress in that same fashion and build a pan-India business, I do think it will be very, very exciting. Again, you overlap that with all the technologies that you're building, all the data that you're capturing, a lot of the AI features that you'll bring out. That's going to be a massive game changer. We don't see any other healthcare place, forget about just diagnostics, kind of doing something like that.
So for me, I think I'll go back to your original thesis. I think you rightly identified what we are about when you invested in us, right? We want to be on the side of innovating deeper, right, into the sector, right? So I think our focus is to how do we, there is a market for a discounted price market, and that is fine. And like as Dhruv said, there is a segment of market which is growing in this, and that is our customer base, which is actually looking for managing their health better and getting in control of their health, right? And as GDP per capita increases, this base of customer base is only rapidly growing more in India, right? So we are focusing on that part of the growing market, and I think for that part, fundamentally, our focus remains how are we going to further innovate on not being supply forward but being backward from demand, right? Entire healthcare ecosystem, so to speak, has evolved from supply forward. Like if I was a pathologist, I started a pathology lab and I was servicing you pathology. If I was a radiologist, I'll start a radiology lab, I will service radiology, right? If I am a device manufacturer, I will make some device and I will sell you devices only, right? But what does all these things do, right? They are essentially therefore measuring your health, right? Piecemeal. Now, we believe actually that the world, is going to converge on that, right? And say that, okay, if you look consumer backward, what they want is that how do I measure my health? And we see ourselves as a company, our mission essentially is like the broader vision is to help doctors diagnose better. But how? And our mission for that, making that happen, is by measuring human health. So I think we're going to innovate backward from there. That what is the most running with the same thesis of convenience, right? Because diagnostics has to be convenient, right? It's not price sensitive. It's convenience oriented, right? If you make it difficult for me, I won't do it. So what is the most convenient approach to measure my health as a single human, right? Where can I get the best complete picture of myself to manage my health? Backwards from there, getting into deep technologies, verticals, right, is what our focus would be in the next 5-6 years, right? Like how do we deliver that to the consumer fundamentally?
Yeah. I think what will not change is that urban consumers will continue to seek convenience. They will continue to seek more control actually, right? And given these two levers, they'll think deeper, and we will think deeper about saying how do we enable our customers to get it more conveniently in and have more control over their health.
And be able to work with doctors at the same
absolutely
time,
right. Doctors are a key part of the ecosystem, and they're the ones who actually are the fundamental users of most reports. So that's something that we never forget. But these two factors will be key for us to build this out. I'll say this, that look, we're barely 5 years old. So it's like asking a 5-year-old child, what will you be at 10, right? Hard to predict. I mean, if someone told me that we would have stores, we would have done all of these things that we've done today when we were just starting out, I would have laughed at it. But just given this demand backwards thought process, saying what does the consumer want, what does the doctor want, what does the healthcare ecosystem need, and what do we need to do, how do we need to evolve to basically service this market. We think more from that perspective.
I think all that you said, it just means that eventually consumers can stop thinking or monitoring about their health because Orange is taking care of it.
We hope for that.
Exactly.
That's where we are going towards.
Like I said, Bertelsmann always gets us.
Now let's move to a fun rapid fire segment. What do you like most about Orange Health Labs?
The fact that it's been run by outstandingly amazing founders and they are building something which India truly needs.
What's the biggest misconception about home diagnostics?
A lot of people have told us that they worry whether the sample will get lost or how long it will take. But what people don't realize is that most collections actually happen at a collection center, which is not where the sample gets tested, right? So there's a very large logistics piece in play over there, right? So it's the same whether your sample travels from home or from a collection center, it travels.
What do you look for in a first conversation with a founder?
The team, specifically how driven, how passionate, how into the problem they are, and I think sustainable competitive advantage in a large term.
What's the most underrated tool that truly improves customer experience?
We have many people don't know about this, but we have a central command center, which is very much like a NASA like control center, where there are people sitting monitoring all transactions in real time nationally. It's like about some 32 screens in front of us, which are real-time tracking every single movement that is happening in the country. It's the only system of its kind in diagnostics, I think, in India, which is there. Every person that comes and takes a sample from you from your home, no other company is watching it as closely as we are.
Describe Dhruv and Tarun in one word.
Dhruv, food, Tarun, numbers.
What's one quality metric you track that others tend to ignore?
So one quality metric that we are very deeply focused on is what we call as a painless single prick, right? We feel that is the moment of truth for a customer, where when they have a good experience, it starts with someone getting a painless single prick.
What's your instinct? Build or buy?
So this is an experience we got from actually doing it wrong and burnt our hands. So our understanding now is that because we are so differentiated in the service that we do, there is no system that we can directly integrate and plug and play without causing a lot of disruption. So we will always build what we have already innovated on, but we are happy to buy what adds adjacent capabilities to us which we don't have. So capabilities around specialized testing capabilities or building new verticals, I think that is better being bought so that we learn from people who have already progressed. But I think on what we are building, we are already we have identified that we are quite ahead and quite different from what is there in the market. And bringing other elements into it actually only dilutes what we have built. So in terms of at-home services, essentially we will build. In terms of building future capabilities, we may buy.
What are your thoughts on current valuations?
Overrated.
What do you think is BII's superpower?
I think outside of food, it's trying to kind of find really good entrepreneurs and backing them till eternity.
Do you have an unpopular opinion about health tech?
Customers don't love technology, they love to get the job done.
What are 3 words customers often repeat as your USP?
On time, professional, reliable. These are the 3 words that we hear again and again from our customers, and we just focus on getting this right.
How would you describe the perfect founder-VC relationship?
Honest is one, frequent communication, and I think another one that I as a founder look for is someone who understands our strategy and business model deeply.
Would you say that description fits your relationship with Bertelsmann?
I absolutely would.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being part of the journey and sharing the journey with us. Really appreciate it. It's amazing to have great partners, great founders who are building amazing companies, and we're happy to kind of back you. We backed you earlier, we continue to kind of back you both, whether it's capital, whether it's operational support, whether it's strategy, wherever we can be helpful, we continue to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been a great journey. I look forward to having another long one future.